Vietnam's economy is booming. It's one of the fastest growing in the world. It's this incredible story of progress, right? But, and this is a big but, beneath all that success, there's this growing tension, a gap between the skills the workforce has and the skills the economy actually needs. So let's dive into this. Now, you might think this is a new problem, but far from it. Get this. This headline is from Vietnam News all the way back in 2009. That's over a decade ago. Even then, people were ringing the alarm bells about needing skills that go way beyond just what you learn from a textbook. So you have to ask, did anything really change?
Well, if you fast forward nearly 10 years to 2018, you see an almost identical headline in the exact same newspaper. I mean, the source material we're looking at points out that the articles are basically the same. This isn't just some lingering issue, you know? It's a persistent, decade-long challenge that really impacts the nation's future.
And this has very, very real consequences. I mean, when huge international companies like Samsung and Intel come in and find that university graduates just don't have the skills they're looking for, what do? They take matters into their own hands. They start funding educational programs themselves. That is a massive signal that the education system isn't keeping up with the economy.
And this is where the stakes get even higher. Because this isn't happening in a vacuum. The whole world is in the middle of what's called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And frankly, the rules for success are being totally rewritten.
Okay, so take a look at this. This data from the World Economic Forum is fascinating. Just look at the shift in the top 10 skills needed in only 5 years, between 2015 and 2020. Things like quality control and active listening, they get bumped off the list. And what replaces them? Emotional intelligence, cognitive flexibility, and look at creativity. It jumps from number 10 all the way up to number 3. These are exactly the kinds of soft skills that we've been talking about, the ones that have been missing.
So how can Vietnam possibly bridge this gap? Well, one of the most promising ideas involves a powerful new tool, something called learning analytics. So what is learning analytics? The official definition, it sounds a little academic and dry. But the core idea is actually super simple. It's all about using data to understand and ultimately improve how students learn. Here's a really great way to think about it. Every single time a student downloads lecture notes or clicks a link for a reading or even posts in an online forum, they're leaving behind these little digital breadcrumbs. Learning analytics is basically the science of gathering up all those breadcrumbs to map out a much clearer path forward for both the student and the teacher. The potential here is absolutely huge. And the research suggests it offers what you could call a double benefit, which is especially great for the students themselves. Let's break down what that means. Basically, it comes down to 2 key benefits. Okay, so benefit number 1 is all about studying smarter, not just harder. Imagine you're a student and you have this personal dashboard. You could see in real time how you're doing. Are you spending as much time on a topic as your classmates? Which concepts are you tripping up on? The system can give you this personalized feedback, helping you focus your energy right where you need it most. And the best part, it doesn't add a ton of extra work for the educator. But that's only half the story. There's a second, and you could argue equally important benefit. It's not just about mastering the course material, it's about getting students ready for the modern workplace. Think about it, right? When students are using data dashboards to manage their own learning, they are, without even realizing it sometimes, developing data literacy. They're learning how to read data, how to make decisions based on facts, and how to take charge of their own performance. And those are the exact skills that employers are desperate for right now. Okay, so this sounds like a perfect solution, doesn't it? But of course, things are never that simple. When you try to implement this kind of big change, the reality on the ground in Vietnam presents some pretty significant hurdles. The sources really point to 3 major roadblocks. First up, teacher resistance. Some educators are just really used to that traditional top-down lecture style. Second, you've got student passivity. There's this exam-driven culture that doesn't really encourage the proactive, self-directed learning this system needs to thrive. And finally, there's leadership inattention. The term learning analytics just hasn't really been on the radar for the top people in education. But even with all those challenges, it's not a lost cause. There is a path forward. The research actually lays out a pretty careful, deliberate blueprint for how Vietnam could pull this off. A really key piece of advice here is to look at your neighbors. Countries like Singapore and Thailand have already started down this road with learning analytics,
But, and this is a really crucial but, Vietnam can't just copy and paste what they did. A one-size-fits-all approach is just not going to work. Vietnam has its own unique culture, its own scale. It's a different ballgame.
So what does a custom-fit approach actually look like? Well, the blueprint suggests 4 key steps. Number 1, start small. Do some low-risk pilot projects to get some early wins and build momentum. 2, develop a data-driven culture. Really promote the value of using data for decisions at every level. 3, and this one is critical, empower the educators. Get teachers directly involved in designing the change. That's how you beat resistance. And finally, number 4, be transparent with the students. You have to explain how their data is being used to help them, to build that trust. And this really gets to the heart of it. The ultimate prize here isn't just about rolling out some new tech. The real goal is to spark a deep cultural shift in education itself, moving away from a system where students are totally dependent on teachers and toward one where they become self-directed, curious, lifelong learners.
So in the end, it all comes down to this. The technology is there, and the blueprint for how to do it exists. But it leaves us with this really fundamental question about how you make this kind of massive change actually happen. For a nation to truly transform its education system, does that push have to come from the top down, from government policy, or does it need to bubble up from the bottom up, from passionate teachers and motivated students? That might just be the most important question of all.